Welcome to Men's Anonymous, the podcast where men can be vulnerable and open without fear of judgment. Your host, Daniel Weinberg, leads authentic and unfiltered discussions that explore the challenges and triumphs of modern manhood. Join us as we break down barriers, challenge stereotypes, and redefine masculinity. Men's Anonymous, a safe space for men to lower their shields and share their inner world without judgment.
Hi. On this week's show, we have Alex McDonald, a phenomenal man who is able to complete 5 marathons in 5 consecutive days while fasting. He proves the ability to turn pain into gratitude. Men's Anonymous. Good morning. Welcome to the show, Alex. How are you?
Yeah, great. Thanks, Daniel. Great to be here, mate. Thanks for having me on.
Mate, awesome to have you. So you're at home now? Where are you?
I'm in Sydney, Australia.
Nice. Okay, so today we're going to talk about the way we manage our food and health lifestyle. Society prescribes for us many different ways of living, but the quite traditional way is what we learn at school and how we're brought up at home, and the traditional food pyramid. And you have taken what I would consider a completely unorthodox approach and very much against the grain. I'd love to just dig in and talk about how you started that journey and explain to the audience the type of diet or health lifestyle that you've now been involved with for quite a number of years, and we'll just start that discussion. So, how did you get involved in where you're at now?
Yeah, sure. So to cut to it, what do I do? Basically, I do the complete opposite of what I grew up to learn is the appropriate nutrition. So turned it on its head. How did I start with that? Well, for me, I'm always fascinated by the outliers, the people that do things a bit differently. They go break all the rules, but they achieve results which are absolutely extraordinary. And for me, that started 15 years ago, which is when I got into this. And it all started with a guy called Art Devaney. The guy was in his 60s, and he had the blood work of a 30-year-old. He was fit. He was lifting things. He was playing with his grandkids, and he'd be the first picked on their team. And I was
where's this guy from?
So this guy is in the States, I believe. So he wrote a book called The New Evolution Diet. And I was in my sort of late 20s. Someone had mentioned, I have a look at this. It may have even just popped up on a feed. I went, you know what, I'll have a read. I like to just consume everything. Had a read, and I went, you know what, this is awesome. This guy's getting these amazing results. And I thought, like, how does he do it? And he took an evolutionary approach, which was simple rule. If it didn't exist 20,000 years ago, don't eat it. Like, that was it. And then exercise, just lift heavy things and run fast when you can, as much as possible. And I went, oh, you know what? That sounds pretty good. But his results were...
So if I could just pause you there. How would you describe your diet pre your change, and what were you doing, like, exercise-wise, and what was your thing?
So for me, look, I grew up in the 80s. It was very much the food pyramid. So I'd have my Wheat Bix and cereal for breakfast. I'd, consider myself healthy because I'd have, half a jug of, juice, and I'd have, fruit and all that sort of stuff. But again, I was in my late 20s. I had a banking career, so I certainly drank way too much. I was kind of your average guy. But I'd be doing gym 3 times a week, trying to be fit and healthy, but, look like everyone else. But, in your late 20s, you're indestructible too. So I didn't have a medical reason to go into it. It was more through my curiosity, I would say. Mm. And so this guy was in his 60s and healthier than a 30-year-old. I thought, you know what, like, this is cool. So I thought, you know what, I'll have 1 month. I'll do what he did and just give it a go. And then if it works for me, then let's just find that middle ground, somewhere in between.
What did you do?
Food pyramid. So all I did was cut out anything that was processed. So no sugar, no, like, anything in a packet, don't eat it. Like, if it was natural, then we're good. So very much back then, it was, call it the Paleolithic approach of only eat what our Paleolithic ancestors would have eaten. And so there was no grains, no processed anything. It was basically lots of meat, lots of vegetables, lots of fruit, and then that was about it. Only drink water. So no soft drink or any of that sort of stuff. So when,
Did
you know
that
what?
for 30 days.
I did 30 days. I went, okay, 30 days, I'm all in. Let's just see what happens. And then I'll find that middle ground. And to be honest, in that 30 days, it was like come to Jesus moment. I was like, my God, I've never felt better in my life.
Wow.
What I used to think felt good was not even close. Like that was
Well,
my
when you say you felt so good, how would you describe the feeling good? Is it like clear head? Is it energy? Is it sleeping well? What are we talking about?
All of the above. So you wake up in the morning and you're bouncing out of bed. You're like, right, raring to go. Mental clarity is rock solid all day. There wasn't that lull like after lunch. It was like, oh, geez, I feel pretty ordinary here. I need to have a coffee. How am I going to get through? Staring at my watch at, even 9 a.m. after I ate breakfast at 7:30 going, oh, geez, it's another 3 hours till lunch. How am I going to get there? None of that. It was rock solid. I could concentrate on my day, mentally sharp right to the end. And when I'd lie down at the end of my day, I'd be tired, but I'd go to sleep like that. And I'd wake up feeling fresh and go again. I was like, this is amazing. And to give you an idea, I'd wake up and it would be previously, it would have felt like that I used to wake up every day with a hangover, so to speak. And now I wasn't. Like it wasn't as though I was drinking, it was due to alcohol. It was just the difference was that stark.
And that you said you define that is what paleo is? Is that the definition?
Yeah, so paleo is effectively cutting out, like it's not, paleo is probably the step before you get to low carb. So if you start with your traditional sort of mainstream kind of food pyramid or my plate or whatever you want to call it, there's very much heavy on the processed grains and like the cereals and the bread and the rice and lots of, not that it's part of the recommendations, but the normal diet has a lot of processed foods. There's a lot of takeaway. There's a lot of, fried food, all that sort of thing is the normal diet. The step away from that is cut out the obvious stuff. So the paleo is cut out anything that's been manufactured. So if it doesn't look like something that you would get in nature, don't eat it. Like that's it. That means it's been processed. That's the simple rule of thumb. And just doing that, the difference was incredible. And so from there, I was like, okay, if I feel this good, there's no way I can go back to eating what I was eating. And then my curiosity got to me again. It was like, I need to understand why. Like I did that, I achieved it. And I was like, I need to understand this. And the other pressure that I had,
did you continue with it moving forward, or did you go back to after post experiment? Did you go back to just your normal eating ways, or did you already start adjusting to no? I'm just going to stick to this this only water, fruit, vegetable, meat.
Yeah. So I went after a month. I can't go back. So I was stuck with it. But like everyone, you do that for a week, and then you go out with the boys on the weekend, and you go out for a nice dinner, and you're like, okay, I'll have a day off. How I'd wake up, it was like, that was the old me. Like, I feel garbage again. And it was like that reminder. I was like, okay, well, let's not do that again. And then the next time I might stretch it out for 6 weeks, then I'd have another dinner or something and go back and I'd have a day where I have a blowout and I feel crap again. And it was rinse and repeat. But each time I did the rinse and repeat, the gaps got bigger. And then eventually it kind of got to the point of, well, you know what? My choice is, the way I explain it, it's like, right, when I have not that I drink much these days, but you have tequila, you're like, best night ever, absolute ripper, best night ever drinking tequila. Next day, you feel like death. And it's like, all right, next time round, you go, well, is it worth me doing that again for the fun? Because I know I'm going to pay the price. And for me, it became a similar thing. It was like, well, is this meal going to be worth it, or this event to kind of fall off the wagon? Am I happy to pay the price for tomorrow? And eventually it got to the point of it's not anymore.
And socially, though, does that not impact, like, you've got I'm sure, a good and big bunch of mates who would regularly go out and have a good time.
Yeah.
If you choose this path, does it not affect your, let's say, your social experience? Are you excluding yourself or like isolating yourself from your crowd?
Not really. Back then, I may have a little bit, because you feel like you say what you're doing, and people look at you like you got two heads, and so then you learn. You just go, I won't tell anyone, but no one knows where stuff's being passed around. Look, if I'm only eating the hamburger patties and not the pizza, no one cares. Like if I'm eating a dim sim or not. So it's not that. And look, again, I'm in my late 20s. I was still drinking, and I would still do that. And I found that the benefits I got from getting my nutrition right weren't being destroyed by even having some drinks when I would go out. So I'd still have a bender and have a big night. I'm not saying that's healthy, but the benefits I got from getting the rest of my week right were huge. So I
Right.
was able to sort of navigate that. But now I'm in my 40s. I've got young kids. It's not as I go out for benders. It's pretty rare, if at all.
Yes.
So
Yes.
it's a very different life now, but and much easier. But yeah, so from there, and then it was like I need to understand how and why this works, and that took me down the rabbit hole of understanding the science behind it. And that, yeah, there's a big piece of that. And the more I understood it, and the more I sort of followed things all the way through to source. So literally saying,
When you say that you deep dive went down the rabbit hole,
yeah.
what did you do? Who are your resources or sources of information? Did you go and speak to doctors? Did you how did you actually do the research?
Yeah, so you'd start out with the recommendations and go, okay, this is what the American Heart Association says, or this is X, Y, Z. But the nerd in me goes, right, I'd read that and I'd say, oh, I'll read these are the sources that we're referring to. So I'd read the papers and I'd be like, hang on, the recommendation says that this thing is not white, it's black. And there's the source that says it's black. And I read the source and the source says, no, it's white. I'm like, hang on, they don't agree. And once you sort of see these things where things don't agree to, the source, you're like, hang on, what's the actual truth here? And the thing that really sort of brought it all together for me was a book written by Gary Taubes. I think he released it in about 2011, 2012, called Good Calories, Bad Calories. Highly recommend it. It is absolutely the Bible in terms of the history of, call it, nutrition research, and tells the political story, but also dives through every paper and gives the narrative.
Good calories, bad calories.
Good calories, bad calories. Highly recommend it. Changed my life. And from there, so half the book, it's probably 400 pages long, 500, and 250 would be references to the pages of the papers that he studied. So he's interviewed 700 of I think it was 700 of the top people around the world that wrote all those papers and asked their opinions and all that sort of thing. And it was an absolute eye-opener. And from there, it was like, okay, basically it's a house of cards, everything that I had been taught, and which was reassuring because the way that I felt doing the complete opposite was consistent with, call it, what the science was telling me once I got to where the actual real source was.
Can you give some examples when you read something like Good Calories, Bad Calories, where they showed there was, you're most probably highlighting that there are contradictions in what's being presented, what is being prescribed to society, and what is the reality? So can you give an example of of something you saw where you went, that doesn't make sense?
Yeah. So a perfect example is heart disease these days. Number one killer in the world. Everyone goes, right, I know what causes heart disease, high cholesterol. Don't eat fat because it clogs your arteries, right? That's it's embedded. This backstory of that started in probably was 1940s, 1950s, where back then heart disease was really not really a thing. It was around a little bit. But there were two competing theories. One was saturated fat causes the issue. The other was sugar. And there were two guys, Ansel Keys on the fat and cholesterol side of things. And forget what it is. But basically, there's the two stories: fat versus sugar. And as it turns out, Ansel Keys was called a very charismatic guy at the time, and he carried a lot of weight. Basically, his competing theory was the one that won out, and it won out because of a study that he published, which was he called the 7-country study. He said, right, we'll go around the world. Let's have a look at everyone's fat intake or saturated fat intake, look at their cholesterol levels, and plot on a chart going how many of them died. And they have this nice correlation going, right, the more they ate, more fat they had, higher the cholesterol, the more they died. Right, we're great. I think I've done that the right way. And but the reality was, when you look at his papers, there weren't 7 countries in there. There was 23. And if you put all 23 in there, all the correlation disappears. It's absolutely, there is no
He cherry-picked
his
data to show that fat caused cholesterol.
Yes.
And can you explain why he had that bias? Like, what was the motivation to being biased with the data? What was he trying to?
Excellent question. It wasn't that fat causes cholesterol. It does. It was more the link the tenuous link that high cholesterol is the cause of heart disease. That is the thing. So,
and why was he trying? Why did he want to show that? Is this like something so he could create a drug to count? Or what was the reason for him to the motivation for him to manipulate the data, for want of a better word?
Essentially, like everyone in that field in the academic world, it's about how do I build a name and make a name for myself in this space. So the guy was on the cover of Time magazine as being the greatest guy ever that saved the whole world because he's discovered this thing that's going to save us from heart disease. So there's the call it the ego there. I would say is a big part of that, and being a very dominating character with being very charismatic. Call it those that opposed his view. He was very good at shutting them down and winning the political battle about it, which is in every sense of the word unscientific and because it is not objective. It's like not the objective truth that matters. It's about proving who is right.
You're saying to this day, I mean, that is still in my mind when you hear from people that is still quite an accepted piece of science or data where people genuinely believe cholesterol's bad for you. It causes heart disease. I personally have friends who are on drugs like Lipitor, and my father was on and may still be on anti-cholesterol medication. And are you suggesting that is like is that not right, or is some of it right?
So the belief. Well, the starting point is it's the most studied theory in all of nutrition. The fact that the link between cholesterol and like heart disease, there's a strong link, cause and effect, causal effect. Now, the reality is, even with all of that, there is no evidence to support that, none whatsoever. The only evidence or papers that ever do support it are what's called epidemiological studies, which are, to put it pretty simply, it's like saying, all right, let's take a population, 10,000 people, and this is how farcical it is. We'll say, right, of those 10,000, let's interview them all and give them a questionnaire saying, right, how much kind of meat did you eat in the last sort of week? And let's extrapolate that over the last 10 years. We'll ask them once and see what that is. And they'll run all of that data, put it in through their models, do some fancy modeling on it, but it's garbage in, garbage out. It doesn't matter how fancy your models are. You literally ask someone, if I asked you, what did you eat, 3 weeks ago on Tuesday morning, I couldn't tell you. And tell me what you ate to the gram of exactly what it was. And is meat, is it a sandwich? Is a pizza a meat? Or is it, is a lasagna a meat? Or what is it? So all of those sort of things. So it gets lost. So all of these papers then go, right, well, let's collate all of that data, and then we'll track these people through time, who died, and then we'll look at their data and say, okay, based on these people, there's call it an association between those that ate what we'll define to be, high fat because of what they answered in that one questionnaire over that 10-year period and their outcomes. So it's like, it's farcical to think that one thing was the one thing that caused all of those issues, because it don't take into account any of the things around, what was their lifestyle like? Did they smoke? Did they drink? How old were they? What were their other ailments? What was their family history? All of that sort of stuff. So all of that gets lost.
So we're told all these things. Most of us comply with what our doctors are telling us, what nutritionists is telling us. And you just simply said, I'm not convinced. I need to go deeper. I need to look further. And so you went on this journey, and where did you arrive to? Where did you get to? And tell us that journey and where you are today, diet-wise.
Yeah, sure. So the starting point, the impetus was I felt amazing after that first month and the first period. So I did what anyone would do, was like, guys, you got to try this. It's the best. Like, you got to do this. It's awesome. And I expected everyone to go, yeah, you're so right. Anyway, I got slammed, absolutely slammed. So I've got a lot of doctor friends that would be like, no, you've lost your mind. You're a lunatic. I used to think you're a smart guy. Like, come on, wake up. I was like, okay. So from there, it kind of kicked me into gear. It was like, okay, well, I'm going to track everything. I tracked everything I ate. I tracked all my blood markers, and I've done that for the last 15 years. So the data I have on it is extensive, because it became, don't just trust me. This is hard data on sort of what is happening to my body.
When you say you tracked everything, are you saying you wrote down all the food you had? You took blood on a regular basis? You wore a glucose monitor? Talk us through
over the years,
different things
as the technology came out. So I started this in 2010, might have been 2011. And early days, it was a couple of years into that, people like, I don't believe the quantity that you eat and the fact that you're not fat like the rest of us. Like, that doesn't reconcile. I was like, okay. I'll keep a food diary. So I did 9 months. I've got just under 1,000 meals that I recorded absolutely everything that went into my mouth. And I've tracked all of the data on that. I can share that with you. And it was, which showed me all my macros and all that sort of thing. So I've got 9 months is a long time. I tell you, I only stopped it after 9 months because I was like, you know what? I don't need to do this any longer. This has been ages. But it was real data. And then, so from then I went on to experiments wearing continuous glucose monitors. So wearing those things on your arm that tells you what happens to your blood sugar.
And so what does that do? What
so-
does that glucose monitor do? Exactly.
So a blood glucose monitor monitors effectively it's a proxy for your blood sugar level. So when you eat or consume, call it food, then your body has a hormonal
food or
reaction
drink,
to that.
basically, right?
Food and drink, it can be anything. So, but there are different types of foods that will impact your blood sugar. So underlying all disease, I firmly believe now, is stems from controlling your blood sugar. So when we have out of control blood sugar, the extreme version of that today is diabetes, type 2 diabetes. Many you're effectively what's called insulin resistant. So if you think of blood sugar is the fire, insulin is the hormone that puts out the fire. So your body needs to regulate its blood sugar through a very tight band. And to do so, whenever you eat, particularly what is it that causes your blood sugar to spike? It is carbohydrates. Fat does not. Protein does such a minimal amount, but doesn't even move the dial compared to carbohydrates. So,
and when you say carbohydrates, you're saying everything from what's considered to be a healthy carbohydrate, like a banana, to something like an ice cream, which is full of sugar. So, like, does the banana have just as much impact on your blood glucose level going up as something like a Mars bar?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's part of what I tracked. So I did the experiment of wearing this, and I would literally what I did was I had a glass of water, I put 4 teaspoons of sugar in it and drank that and see what happened to my blood sugar. And it went like this. Wow, massive spike. So then next day I went, right, glass of water, and I have a banana, and let's see what happens. And then I tracked that. And I tracked it against the glass of water with 4 teaspoons of sugar in it. And it was astounding. It was absolutely identical.
Tell us what happens between banana and 4 teaspoons.
So what was astounding was whether it was a banana, whether it was plain rice, white rice, brown rice, doesn't matter. Cereal.
I remember we talked about this.
Yeah. So cereal.
There's a belief by people that brown rice, for example, is way healthier than white rice. And I remember having this debate with you, and you said, "No, let me show you. I've done a paper on this." Where you, I'm gonna recall you where you showed the white rice has a quicker peak than the brown rice, but the brown rice will give you the same blood glucose level. It will just go over a longer period of time. Is that something like that? Is that right?
Yeah, that's absolutely spot on. So the way
there's
you think about
there's no real health benefit difference by going, I'm going to go healthy and have the brown rice. That's a fallacy. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, that's right. So the way, like if I create a silly analogy, it's like, right, you're driving on the road. If you skid off the road and you're onto the dirt, then you're in bad territory. White rice makes you skid off a long way and then you come back, right? Pretty quickly, but you go off a long way, which is bad. The brown rice means you get off and you're on the gravel and you'll sit on there for ages and then you'll bring yourself back in. Why that is bad?
Same equal effect, just different way it affects.
Correct, over a different time frame. And so it's useful to know this. The reason is, the high blood sugar is bad. The hormone that brings it down is what's called insulin. So insulin brings it down, puts out the fire, so to speak. But insulin is what they call a fat accumulation hormone. So people say you get fat because you eat fat. Absolute bollocks. You eat fat because your insulin is out of control or your blood sugar is out of control and you're pumping your body full of insulin. The easiest way to demonstrate that is when you're a type 2 diabetic that needs to inject themselves with insulin to bring their blood glucose down because their body is not producing enough insulin to do the job. They have to do it externally. You have to do it in different spots. So if I did it on my arm here repeatedly in the same spot, my arm would look normal and there'd be a massive bowl of fat that would accumulate precisely where the insulin was. So anywhere there is insulin in your body will accumulate fat at that spot, which is why you have to move it around your body because you want to spread the fat out so you don't look like a weirdo with, a fat arm because you've done it in the same spot. Most people do in their legs, but that's part of the reason they move it around. Once you understand that, you say, okay, well, while my body's full of insulin, I'm accumulating fat. It's like the fat trigger is on. So back to the brown rice example, it's like the white rice gets my insulin really high, so lots of fats accumulating. Brown rice takes me off the road. Insulin's there, not as much, but for longer. So now it's the machine is working longer, accumulating the fat. So the whole game is, how do I make sure my insulin is as low as possible all the time? That's it. So it's as simple as if ever I eat something that makes my blood sugar spike, my insulin has to bring it down. More insulin, more fat. That's the problem. So just don't eat anything that makes your blood sugar spike. And
so the insulin is what's causing. So if your insulin isn't responding, your fat is building up. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. So I'm saying it's a call it a chain reaction. So whenever you eat a carbohydrate, specifically glucose, okay, when you eat glucose, your blood sugar goes high. That is life-threatening. It needs to come down. To bring it down, you need insulin, which is the hose to put out the fire, or the water to put out the fire. Insulin, while it's acting to do its good job of bringing the blood glucose down, it does other things in your body, quite a lot of other things, but one of those things is it instructs the cells to store some of that glucose, convert it to fat, and store it in your fat cells. That's how we clear it. That's how you get it out of your blood system.
Right, and that's how you get fat.
Correct.
Basically.
Absolutely. So that's the game. So if you can keep your blood sugar low, your insulin will always be low, which means you are now in fat burning mode. And that was a really pivotal moment once I understood that.
So once you understood that through that experiment, you then adjusted your diet again to.
Yeah.
Is that the point where you started eliminating all carbohydrates? So you started taking out all fruits. Yes?
Yeah. Well, there was another angle to it. So for me, fat loss wasn't a problem because I'd been doing this for a long time. So I was already very lean. But the part that I learned was that while you are consuming, call it glucose, because glucose is an energy source. Your body uses it for energy. Everyone knows that. But while you're doing that, the amount of glucose you can store in your body is only a small amount. So it's a maximum about 2,000 calories. So picture like a small fuel tank like this. Where on our body, I'm pretty lean. I've got I'm about sort of 14, 15% body fat. Sounds high, but it puts me in the top 4% of lean individuals for my age, given the world we're in today. And even at those numbers, I've got more than 100,000 calories of available energy on my body stored as fat. Now, coming back to insulin, whenever my insulin is high, it locks the door to that fat storage. I can't access it. My body won't use it, and it's using this tiny fuel tank. Burn through that really quickly, and that's why you're ravenously hungry 2 hours after you have a bowl of pasta, because you've consumed all this glucose, and your body is not aware or can't access the fat that's on your body. It has to go, right, we've run out of the fuel tank, give me some more, which is where your hunger signals come into it. Right. So for me, it was, right, not just the fat story, it was what I learned is, well, if you can train your body to not only use this small glucose fuel tank and say, hang on, let's look at this massive fuel tank of fat that I've got on my body, then theoretically, if I've only got 2,000 calories of glucose and I've got 100,000 of available energy in fat, well, I want to tap into that. That means I could go 50 times longer. Imagine having 50 times more energy in your day. So that was what took me to the next stage, which
okay, can I just pause you there, because I just want to recap. There's a lot of numbers being thrown around. So what you're saying is, no matter how much pasta I eat, okay, so let's say I'm going to have 2 big bowls of pasta. What you're saying is the most calories which equals energy, okay, the most calories that I can actually have from eating this, that my body will accept in a short-term period, is up to 2,000 calories. So that I can use as energy, right? So if I eat more food that could potentially produce in excess of the 2,000 calories, that goes into becoming fat straight away, because the human body can only have up to 2,000 calories that can be used, that's produced from carbs at any one time. So when people are thinking about eating, when they need to eat, have carbs for energy, right? The amount that you're eating is most of the time you are more likely eating more than you actually can use at any one time. Is that what you're suggesting?
Yeah. So well, there's 2 parts to that. So one is, let's be clear. So the 2,000 calories is what's the the form of glucose, which is stored in your body in the form of glycogen, is what it's called. So everyone understands glycogen's in your muscles. You want to top up your glycogen before you do a big race, etc. That's what we're talking about. Maximum you can hold in your body is 2,000 calories. Doesn't matter. You cannot top that up anymore. That's the size of the fuel tank. You're tapped out.
Understood.
Okay?
That's the size of our petrol tank, basically.
Correct.
Right.
Yes. Well, one of your petrol tanks.
Okay.
You got one petrol tank, which is glycogen, and you got another form of stored energy, which is fat. And everyone understands that we've got those two. Now, the thing is, if you're always topping up this one, your body goes, I don't need to be efficient at converting fat to energy because you're always feeding me every 2 hours. I never even have to do that.
Right.
Okay. The magic comes from when you cut out the regular intake of the carbohydrates, your body actually produces your own glycogen and your own glucose, which is, it's an absolute fact, and no one can deny this, that required amount of carbohydrate essential for life that you need to eat is 0 grams. Absolute zero. There is not,
So,
it is not an essential nutrient
the
whatsoever.
traditional food pyramid that we all learn and that nutritionists in general prescribe tells us what around carbohydrates today. How much carbohydrates are they saying that we should have in our day? So, like when they tell us we should have some fruit, we should, like, in a balanced diet. What are we being told today that you're effectively dispelling?
Yeah. So what we're being told is, well, if you use the food pyramid, it's a bit outdated now because we have the My Plate with the section of it, but the vast majority of it, I would say kind of half to 2/3 would be the base of that should be, call it complex carbohydrates. So they're saying that's like the breads, the pastas, that sort of thing. I couldn't tell you the exact number of servings, but it's a crazy amount, given that the required amount for any glucose is 0. It's probably a useful thing to understand. People go, oh, well, I'll cut out the sugar, but I'll eat the complex carbohydrates because they're good, like the pastas and the rice and the things. Quick lesson, complex carbohydrates are nothing more than, so a sugar molecule is glucose and fructose. Two molecules bound together, that's sugar. Fructose is the sweet one. Glucose is the bit that spikes your blood sugar, like in the insulin. What we're talking about.
Fructose is what you get in fruit, correct?
Correct. You have both. But the fructose is the bit that tastes sweet. Glucose doesn't taste sweet, which is why rice doesn't taste sweet. Okay, it's full of glucose but doesn't taste sweet. Banana does because it's high in the fructose bit, which is the sweet bit. Okay. But the other thing to remember, it's the glucose bit of the sugar that causes your blood sugar to spike. Okay.
Yep.
Now, a complex carbohydrate, by definition, complex just means glucose molecule, a whole chain of those.
Glucose versus fructose, you mean?
No, glucose, only glucose.
Only
the one
glucose.
that spikes blood sugar. Yeah.
Right.
So a complex carbohydrate is all of those. And as Dr. David Unwin neatly put, he says, all it is glucose molecules holding hands. That's what a complex carbohydrate is, all of them. As soon as you ingest it, the hands let go and it's glucose. So whether it came from sugar or it came from pasta, it all ends up to be exactly the same thing, which is glucose.
Oh, so having a banana or having a teaspoon of sugar is going to have the exact same effect? So you're saying...
Yeah, exactly. It'll all break down to the core components of being glucose and fructose. They get metabolized differently. But effectively, the glucose portion, which we're focusing on here, is exactly the same thing. And it's like saying, right...
So you're suggesting basically that when people say you should cut sugar out of your diet, what you're suggesting is that includes what you would typically or normally consider to be healthy things as well. So, like, if you want to take sugar out of your diet, that also means you can't eat a banana, you can't eat an apple. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, so let's be really pick on our words here. The purpose of it is not so much the sugar. It is I'm wanting to reduce my blood sugar spikes. Sugar, okay?
Which is driven by glucose.
Correct. Yes. So if I eliminate any form of glucose, I will not have spikes in my blood sugar. Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
So and ordinarily, like some spikes in your day is like, if some people go, well, you can't tell me I can't ever eat fruit. It's like you can, but fruit traditionally is seasonal. You'd eat it during certain periods of the year. And when you do have it, you might indulge in it, but you're not eating, 10 apples a day or 12 bananas every single day of your life. Like that would never happen except for today's world. And it gets worse when you go, not only just let's not focus on fruit, let's look at all the processed other stuff as well that we're sort of throwing in. So
once you went through this whole experiment, you then decided to change diet again, correct?
Yeah. So when I learnt was like, right, and the key was, right, let's train our body not to use this small fuel tank of carbohydrates, use our big fat stores. How do I do that? Just don't eat the carbohydrates. And your body goes, right, we have to use this. You unlock the door to it. I did that again. And when I spoke about the energy levels increasing when I first started this on the paleo leg of things, it went a whole new level.
So tell us the diet you switched. What was the diet you switched to then?
So from then, prior to that, it would be I'd have like lots of meat, lots of leafy greens. I'd still have like lots of broccoli, Brussels sprouts. I'd have beans and peas and all that sort of stuff. From then I went, right, well, now I'll limit that and I'll cut it down to, I'll give myself a quota per day, which is about 30 grams of carbohydrates per day, which is very low. But I could still have like lots of...
Give us an example. What's 30 grams of carbohydrates?
So to give you an idea, 1 teaspoon of sugar is 4 grams.
Okay. Yep.
So that would be 8 teaspoons of sugar would be about it.
Yep.
Okay. Now 8 teaspoons of sugar equivalent would be about 2 slices of bread.
Okay.
Would be a kind of max quota. And that'd be me tapping out on the day. I'd probably say 1 would be enough. But again, I wouldn't eat bread at all, but that's an idea of a quota. So I cut that out and kept my glucose intake really low, and my energy went through the roof, absolutely through the roof. What that then meant for me was, look, I was like, right, I feel better than ever. I got more energy. And that kind of led me into my, as you've alluded to, my final experiment, or my most recent one was, how can I test out that I have 50 times more energy than what anyone else believes? Because they don't believe what I say. I need to do something that can definitively prove that I'm not lying, that I genuinely have this amount of energy. And yeah, that kind of led me to, well, what I did in 2023.
Okay, we'll get to there in a second. You must have had, I mean, you're going on so just so I'm clear and the audience understands, your diet then becomes, my understanding, is meat / eggs pretty much only. Correct? Am I missing anything?
Yeah, so the progression was paleo, lots of leafy greens, still having sweet potato, carrots, that sort of thing. Then we cut out any of the heavy carbohydrates, and we just have leafy greens and meat and eggs. That's more the keto end of the spectrum. Then I dial down the veg even more, and we get to, at the pointiest end of it, carnivore, where I've gone, right, I'm cutting out anything that's a sort of plant-based, and I'm now only focused on the fat, crank that as high as I can, fat and protein, because both are absolutely...
I really want to hone in this so the listeners really understand. When you say you go carnivore, I want you to tell us what, from the moment you wake up to the moment you go to sleep, I want you to just talk us through a day, just one day of what you actually eat. Tell us volume and tell us what exactly, okay?
Yeah, sure. So when I say I'm carnivore and I only eat that, like, believe me, I'm 99% carnivore. So the first thing I start my day with is coffee. I'll have a black coffee, which seems bizarre, but I'll put probably 30 grams of butter in it. I'll blend that up. It's really tasty, and I'll put some salt in it. That's me. I'll have that in the morning.
Oh, salt in there as well.
Absolutely, salt. Yeah,
salt in your coffee with butter. The butter, I understood, it's called a bullet, isn't it? It's a bullet coffee.
Yeah, well, the bullet is they put MCT oil, so the medium chain triglycerides. But yeah, butter is effectively the same thing. But basically, it cranks up the fat and gives me a creamy taste without the kind of the impact of having a sugar, which is lactose, the milk, in my coffee. So
why the salt?
Well, for 2 reasons. One, it's a diuretic, the coffee, so it does make you excrete salt. So you're kind of winning that. But the real reason, tastes better. It goes from being muddy water to just like a salted caramel kind of flavor to it. It's really nice. So
I will experiment with that. Okay, you go with the coffee. Then what do you do?
So then, to be honest, I don't need to eat until I literally don't eat until that evening. So some days I might have lunch, which might be a couple of hamburger patties. I might have 3 or 4 of those with some cheese and maybe some eggs. But that might be once or twice a week. But otherwise, I'd wait until dinner, and I'll wait because I don't have the hunger signals anymore. It's not as though I'm looking at my clock going, "Oh, geez, I'm starving. How long do I have to wait?" It'll be, I'll get to dinner.
What are you eating for dinner? What are you having for dinner?
So for dinner, I'll have somewhere between 800 grams to a kilo steak, which I'd top that with a bit of butter, and I might have a side of eggs or a side salad of pork chops or something like that as well. So
do you control the amount you eat, or you just eat until you've had enough?
I eat until I'm full. Well, to be very clear, I eat until it stops tasting good. which is very, very natural way to do it. It's like if the last bite on my plate still tastes good, I'll go eat some more. But I guarantee if you start, the first bite of a steak is absolutely phenomenal. And the last one, you're like, oh, I couldn't eat another thing. That's why you can't overeat on it. And then the simple game that I play is I rely on my satiety. So if I'm hungry, I eat. If I'm not, I don't eat.
So you eat around the same time every evening? Is it pretty programmatic?
I'm not religious about it, but it's more I get home. Yeah, but yeah, generally it's kind of about 7:00 is when I'll eat. But often some days, look, there are other days where I might not even eat during the day because I'm just not hungry. And if I have a big meal, then I might be, you know what, the idea of eating here is actually a bit much. I don't need to do it. So I'll just hold out and wait till the next day.
So you're effectively eating just different types of meat for dinner. So you'll have maybe a T-bone, a tomahawk, a ribeye, and you're just cycling through different meat. When you're saying meat, you're saying red meat. You're not saying chicken. You're not saying
no.
fish.
So I'll have chicken.
It's red meat.
Yeah, so I'll have probably 90% would be red meat. I will have a chicken because when you're out and about and say someone's going in to get lunch, I'll be like, oh, okay, you're going to the chicken shop. I'll have a chicken for lunch. They're like, oh, what cut do you want? I went, no, a chicken. They're like, what do you mean? The whole thing. So I'm not joking. When I eat a lot, I eat till I literally cannot eat another thing. And then after I eat a chicken for lunch, I probably wouldn't eat dinner. I mightn't eat till dinner the next day. But it's like, it's so simple. It's just eat until I can't eat anymore. So I'll eat some seafood.
It's coffee in the morning. It's water when you want to drink, when you're thirsty, and it's meat. And it's really, in general, majority of the time, it's one meal a day, and it's maybe lunch. You might have a burger patties with eggs, whatever. But really, it's one meal a day on average. Couple of days a week, you might throw in a second meal. But it's one meal a day. Okay, so I've got some questions that is this what is referred to as a ketogenic diet? Is that what that is?
Yes. Yep, absolutely.
And what is a ketogenic diet so everyone understands?
Yeah, so a keto diet is effectively any diet where your body is producing what's called ketones. So when your body is producing ketones, they're an energy source, which your body uses as a fuel source. They're fantastic for your brain and your whole body. They're like a superpower. But in order to...
When they say you've gone into ketosis.
Correct. So ketosis just means your body is producing ketones. So...
Right.
which is measurable. So there are three types. There's you can measure them in three different ways. One through urine test, one through your breath, and one through your blood. Blood is the most accurate of those, but they are different types of ketones. But the blood ones, which I've tracked over time as well, is the beta hydroxybutyrate. But effectively, any diet in which you're eating in which your body is producing ketones, that is a ketogenic diet. So don't think about it from what you're eating so much. It's more the outcome of how your body is responding to what you're eating is the cleanest way to define it.
And so with a ketogenic diet, you can't have a gram of carbohydrate effectively. So
no, that's not correct. No. So
is that not right?
No, so you can have some. So it depends on the individual. As a blanket rule, you can have up to 30 grams a day and your body will still be producing ketones. Some people up to 50 grams a day, and any more than that of carbohydrates, your body won't be producing ketones because your body is only producing ketones when it's converting its own fat to energy, so to speak, is the simplest way to do it. When glucose is high, you're not converting that fat to energy, so you're not producing those ketones.
Okay, and how do you explain, because if most traditional doctors, if you're to present this and I've spoken about this with multiple people, and the one thing that they always, throw back as a response is they talk about you're going to have a heart attack. How are you not by eating so much, with having so much fat build up, and there's like good cholesterol and bad cholesterol? How are you not avoiding the bad cholesterol that's ultimately going to give you a heart attack?
So that's a loaded question because it's built on the assumption where we started that fat clogs your arteries and that's the reason you have a heart attack.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
If that premise doesn't hold, that question doesn't carry any make
but
any
how
sense.
does that premise not hold? Because that's what we're told. And
so that's what we're
saying.
told.
That's not right.
Yeah, 100%. That's not right. So there's a couple of ways you can go through the science of it. You can argue a few things, which we can go there if you like. one of the tidbits of information I think cuts through it pretty quickly is if you go through all of medical literature and you say like heart disease, heart attack is the number one killer at the moment in the world. Okay. If you go through all the medical literature and say, when is the first documented heart attack in all of medical literature? Anywhere. 1912. Okay. So 1912, first one ever. And they wrote a paper on it saying this is insane. I've never seen, because they did autopsies on everyone back in the 1800s, particularly that was the job of a doctor. So they wrote papers on this because it was the first time they'd ever seen it. And they call it a heart attack because when they opened up the guy's chest, his heart looked like it exploded. Never seen it before. So the question then becomes, hang on, what's changed? If it's the number one big killer now,
Yes.
and it never existed or we never had any evidence of it prior to 1912, it's like not as though you just didn't notice people not like clutching their heart and falling to the ground. Like it's pretty obvious when someone has a heart attack. Believe me, it was a lot of smart people back then. It's something has changed. So we're blaming, call it, if you're saying, why don't I have a heart attack because I'm eating meat? It's like, well, I didn't start eating meat after 1912 and that wasn't the meat consumption since then has actually gone down. So how is it possible that the cause of this thing that's causing these heart attacks is also the thing that we've reduced in that period? And also when we spent our entire existence eating it, we never had heart attacks. Got to explain that.
All right. So with all this, again, you must have had so many naysayers, so many people around you, your wife, family, close friends, just telling you, Alex, you've lost your marbles, mate. Seriously, you're going to kill yourself. You're going to have a heart attack. You're going to die. What are you doing? Okay. So you decide I need to prove to you and to prove to you on whether your thesis around the fuel tank that you say that we all have that we don't tap into enough. You say, I'm going to do something radical that's never been done before in the world, in history. So you're going to do a Guinness Book of Records. You want to get in the Guinness Book of Records. And you come up with, I understand you're inspired by a story from someone else who you can tell us the story quickly as you get into it, but you basically decide that you're going to run 5 marathons over 5 consecutive days on 0 food except water and salt.
Correct.
And wait. And on top of it, for the record, you've never ran a fucking marathon in your life before, and you want to do 5 in a row.
Yeah.
Is that? Have I got the correct? Have I got?
Yeah.
And you finish off by actually the 5th marathon is actually an official marathon where you like on the 5th day you're joining an actual marathon with thousands of other people, and you complete this feat. Correct.
Correct.
Talk us
Absolutely.
through the I'm having a brain explosion just thinking about. I've never ran a marathon. I've done the Seed to Surf, which is a 14K run. I hated every minute of it. I said I'm never going to do that again. And I don't, maybe I could do a marathon, but it's a very painful and challenging exercise. Number one, to do one, but to do one on no food, just water and salt, is already a huge feat. And you've done 5 in a row and broken all records. Talk us through, where was the brain explosion?
Yeah, so you've got to step into my shoes. So, we've spoken about diet for a lot. I've been doing it for 10 years. And I learned the sciencey bit. I went into the sports nutrition. Coming back to the fat stores of energy, I've got enough, like 100,000 calories on me. I've been fat adapted, as they call it, tapping into that very efficiently for a very long time. So I've already set the baseline there. Now, what I learned was 100,000 calories, you run the maths on that. It's like, how many marathons could I do based on that amount of energy? And a staggering number is it's 22 marathons just on my body fuel reserves. So I'm like, okay. So I got inspired by a Dr. Ian Lake in the UK. He's a type 1 diabetic, and he and 7 others did 100 miles in 5 days, completely fasted. So I was like, that's cool.
Oh, the same thing, the water and the salt.
Same thing, water and salt only. Same thing. So they did 100 miles. It's about 4 marathons over the 5 days. And I was like, you know what? He's like mid-50s. One of the women that did it was mid-50s, never run a marathon before. I was like, geez, if those guys can do it, like I got to harden up, I can do it too. So I thought, that's cool. So I went 5 in 5 days. Sounds cooler. That's why I'll do 5. And, let's see how far I can push it. But more than anything, it was about testing, proving to myself as much as to anyone else. It was like, well, if the science says this is possible and it actually works, if I do it myself, then I can hand on heart say, I know it's a real thing. I don't have to rely on studies. I don't have to rely on any of that stuff. And also it was a way for me to do something where the naysayers will say, I've read this paper that says it's impossible. And it's like, try and have that argument with me after you're talking to the guy that's just done it. Like, your paper means jack all now because I've done it. So for me, it was being able to, not being a scientist, not being a doctor, not having a PhD,
Give people the
to talk to these guys and just say, I'm sorry, like, your data's wrong because I've done it. So for me, it was a great way to cut through all of that. So believe me, I had a lot of motivation to do this, as much as anything, just to do it for myself. So yeah, you're right. So I went about it. I've never run a marathon before, which makes it even cooler because I'm not able to do this because of an exceptional athletic ability. Like, I'm not a freak athlete. That's not why I can do it. And as much as anything, it was to inspire people to go, you know what? People go, I had breakfast this morning. There's no way I can get through to lunch because I'm going to run out of energy. Or, I've got to run around after my kids all day. I can't do it. I don't have the energy. It's like, well, hang on. This guy did 5 marathons on nothing. Maybe there's something in here. You can apply these same principles to your own life and get something out of it. So to me, it was like sort of all these sort of stars aligned. I went, there's a whole bunch of reasons why I need to do this. So I did. I set about training. So I went, right, committed on the fat adapted side, cut out all carbohydrates, pure carnivore, get my body as efficient as possible, and let's train. So 2 kilometers into my first ever training run, I popped my calf. And I was like, oh dear, this is going to be hard. So it was like, right, this is serious. So then I had to put in the training and et cetera to build up the Ks to be able to work up to the volume that I did. But you're right, I'd never done a marathon.
How much training did you do before you set off on the first marathon?
So I gave myself a year to train. So, and again, I was starting from ground zero. So first run was 2 kilometers. I pulled a muscle. So then I was out for 3 weeks. Then the next run was 2Ks, 3Ks. Then every week I built that up to, call it a month before, I did probably 80 to 100 Ks a week in terms of volume. So I really worked it up. So I'd never done a marathon before, and I still hadn't prior to my first ever. Most I'd ever done might have been about 32, 33 Ks on any given day. So, but worked my way up to it and did every training run fasted and tracked everything while I did it. So wearing glucose monitors, ketone monitors, so I could check all of that sort of stuff. So come the day, it was day one. I was like, right, I'm tracking everything. I actually plugged in with some nutritionists, some doctors, high profile doctors around the world. So Dr. Paul Mason, who some people might know. If you don't know, look him up. He has the best stuff in this space on how all this stuff works. He was in my camp helping me out. I didn't know him beforehand. I said, hey, mate, I'm doing this. I'm crazy enough, but I'm going to track everything. Is there anything you want to test? You want to, anything you want to know? And he's like, yeah, this is awesome. So he was like, right. So I said, here's all my data. You do my blood tests. Anything you want to know out of this, it's all yours. So having those sort of guys gave me the confidence too that I'm not off reservation here. I asked them saying, can I do this? They're like 100%. Dr. Ian Lake.
Where's Dr. Paul Mason?
He's in Sydney as well. So he works out of a couple of places, but yeah, look him up online. His stuff on YouTube is phenomenal, but you can have a consult with him. But phenomenal guy, one of the smartest guys I've ever met. So, and they gave me the confidence to go, right, yeah, I'm not off reservation here. I was like, can I do this? And Dr. Ian Lake, the guy that did it, the type 1 diabetic, did the 100 miles, reached out to him. He was very, very helpful, going, mate, you'll do it easily. Like, this is what you got to do. You're doing it the right way. So, I plugged into the right people, asked the right questions, and had the confidence to go in and do it.
And I want you to walk us through what your mental state is day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4, day 5. Like, tell us that journey. Because, I mean, if I was able to run a marathon, I can imagine I would be completely fucked at the end of it. And would just be like, I need a week off just to chill, because that was just a huge feat. You did that 5 times. So what's going through your head after day 1? Like, oh my God, I got to do another 4 of these? Like, what? Where's your head at?
Well, let me paint you a picture, right?
Yeah,
So
paint the
picture
whole
like
picture, even during
right,
it. Like, how are you doing this?
the way to think about it, think of like Tour de France, where you got like people lining the streets, crowds cheering, everyone going like, we're here. You got your support crews, the whole thing, right? Now that is the complete opposite of what I did. Like it was me,
You had nothing.
it was
You
me
had no one.
rocking
You
up
had like, hey.
in a car park going, right, I've got my water bottle and I'm going to run figure eight loops around the river and where they do the Western Sydney Marathon. And figure eights, because if I have to run past my car and change my shoes or change my, something happens or, I'll blow a gasket, I can sort myself out. So it was just me. So day one was, I had people tracking me, all that sort of thing, and wore my GPS, and I've got all my data on that. But day one, I was like, I'm pumped. I'm ready. I've been a year working for this. We're so good. I'm ready. We're away. So I do my first one. Turns out it was 34 degrees in that day. It was like super hot. And it got hotter. That was the coolest of all the days of the 5. So I was like, this is pretty punchy. But call it probably about 35 Ks in, and anyone that's done a marathon for the first time would know this. It's like my hips started to go. It's like my joints started to hurt. I was like, oh, this is pretty hard. And at the end of that first marathon, funny story, 2 Ks to go, I teed up with my physio to go, mate, you're going to give me a rub down at the end of this just to kind of, get me going again. So 2 Ks to go on my run. He said, oh, mate, sorry, I forgot to tell you, I've taken the kids away on holiday. I'm not going to be there. We're shut. I was like, oh, are you kidding? So I'd mentally, parked myself a bit getting a physio treatment at the end of the day, nothing. So it was like, okay. Finished day one marathon, and it was that moment of, holy shit, marathon is a very long way, and I've bitten off a lot here. Like 4 to go, this is going to be hard. Like it was very real after that first marathon of going, hang on, I need to do this all again. So hour drive back home from where I did it, again, straight to bed that night. I had to cook my kids' dinner that night too. So remember, I'm fasted, so trying to smell the food and all that sort of thing. And then day 2 was like, right, we're going to do this again. So back out there again. Day 2 mentally was the hardest because it was like, I know how hard it is now. I've got 4 to go. Halfway through, it's now 35 degrees. It's tough. So
and what are you doing? Are you listening to music? Are you talking to friends while you got your AirPods in? Like, what are you doing? You listening to a podcast? What are you doing?
So day 1 was like nothing. It was like just me because I want to listen to my body and check if, anything starts to play up and, be aware of it and back it off and, speed up. And, I was running at heart rate. So it was all very scientific. Day 2, I was so sore. I was like, I need music so I don't feel the pain anymore. It was like, I need to distract my mind. So as much as I wanted to just sort of raw dog it with the mental game, it was, I need distractions here. I need to play some games with my mind to get my way through. So mentally it was, like there were a few things. It was like everyone has that little voice in their head that sort of says, right, you got to stop doing this. Like you can't do it. Like you got to give up. It was like, how do I conquer that? And day 2 was very much that. It was like, what are you doing? You're a lunatic. You're going to hurt yourself, blah, blah, blah. So, but it was like, no, I'm on here. I just have to switch that off. And it was like, the more it told me, you can't do this, the more I just told myself, like, watch me. Like this is happening. So it was like flicking into that sort of mental mode. One of my key tricks that I had was, this was kind of later, once it still really started to hurt. So day 3 was like hump day, really exciting. Get through today. I'm more than halfway through. But again, it was super hot. When my legs were really hurting, my mental trick was I'd tell myself going, you know what, Alex? On the way home, you got hit by a car and you could never use your legs again. You could never run and you could never feel the pain that you're feeling in your legs right now. How much would you give to feel the pain you're in right now? To be able to choose to do another marathon and go, this hurts like hell, but I get to feel it because that's taken away from you, right? So I tell myself that in my mind while I'm running. And as soon as you turn your pain to gratitude, game changes. It's like you just like, no one will stop me here.
What a hack.
Yeah, it was amazing. So it was like, turn pain into gratitude like that. It's like, you take this away from me and I can't experience the pain I'm in now. It was an absolute game changer. So there are a lot of little mental
tricks. Really like
that.
Turning pain into gratitude.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So, and I absolutely dialed into that. I'd say these little things to myself. It was like, come on, Alex, beast mode. Like you just have to get into beast mode, be the beast, like just be that guy. And it's momentum builds momentum. So once you get through 3, it's like, I've already done 3. What's another one? So the thought of like only doing 2 marathons to go after having done 3 was amazing. And then like day 4 was pretty incredible because it was 38 degrees that day. The marathon course I was running was shut because I was holding an official triathlon. So I had to adjust. And the one I was running was holding a food festival. So they're cooking barbecue meats as I'm running my 4th marathon fully fasted, and it was like, right, what other mental challenges can you throw at me? And by then it was like, come on, the harder you make this, the more I can cop it. Like, make this as hard.
Your body must be getting battered. Your feet must be hurting. Like I know from other guys that I know who run marathons. I mean, their toenails count. Yeah, you have toenails coming here. Your feet bleed, blistering. You're like how at night when you're back at home, are you in pain, or are you like, or is it just feel like you've done a workout and you're feeling a bit tender? Like, you must be feeling pain, no?
Yeah, so it was painful. And it wasn't pain like the muscles, big muscles were painful. It was my joints. Like, I just shredded them. So my analogy is like I was solving a fueling problem. Like, I'm proving I have so much energy that I just won't run out. But it's like if you can run your car on an unlimited fuel tank, you still wear out your brakes and tires. Like, they're the bits that I haven't solved for. And that was the bit that got me. So my joints were like excruciating. So by day 4, I'd had grade 2 sprained ankles. So my last 2 marathons I did with sprained ankles, which, I got footage of my feet. I look like I've got elephant ankles. Like, they're massive. Which, added another element.
You finish the marathon. You finish off with the
I did the last 2 with those things. So, you play these funny games. Like, I put these compression pants on to sort of stop my legs from swelling up, but I didn't put the compression socks on. So I was like skinny legs and massive feet because it just compressed everything into my feet. So then I'll put the compression socks on, not the pants, and it sent everything back up the other way. It's like all these little things that just happened. But yeah, it was pretty brutal. But then, and the last night too was also one. So sleep was a problem. I couldn't sleep because mentally I was wired. Like, I was so sharp and I just couldn't shut down. It was incredible. I never had any hunger all the way through. Like, most I got to, if 10 was ravenous, 0 was nothing, I was about a 3.
Wow.
And I was a 3 because I track it. Like, how hungry am I on a scale? But if I said to you, don't think of an elephant, what are you thinking of? It's like, don't think of food. It's like, well, maybe I am hungry, but I wasn't sort of ravenous at all. But, and then one of the sins I did take was because of my joint pain, I did take an anti-inflammatory, which was a mistake because anti-inflammatories cause your body to retain water. And part of the swelling I had in my legs was really problematic. So the night before my final marathon,
they're also not very good to take on empty stomach.
Yeah, correct. But when you're in a
they can really burn through your stomach lining because of the acid and everything that gets produced.
Yeah. So it was, it was a mistake, but it was like in the moment, it's like, I need something here because my joints are they're like daggers and needles into my joints. Like, it was bad. So it was, but I paid the price. So all my legs swelled up with fluid because of the water retention. So I actually weighed the night before my final marathon. I weighed as much as I did prior to my all 5 marathons before I even started. And I hadn't eaten a thing. So it was all this water in my body. So I called my doctor. I said, mate, this is a problem. He's like, it definitely is. You're overhydrated. So he said, tonight, what you need to do when you go to bed, you need to put your feet up into the air like this and drain all the fluid out of your legs, like through the night.
So what, you have to lie against the wall and put your feet up, or just a couple of pillows?
Right, to picture an L position with my legs in the air.
Oh, wow.
So my joke is, it was like, I felt like that Chuck Norris joke, like Alex McDonald doesn't sleep, he just waits for dawn. Like, that was me. I was just lying there on my back waiting for the fluid to drain. And that was me all night. So I tracked all my data with my sleep. So my sleep metrics are like horrible that night. I just didn't sleep. So yeah, that's me. Now I rock up at the start line. Marathon number 5, haven't slept. I got sprained ankles. Energy was fine, but my brakes and tires were busted, as I mentioned.
And mental?
By then, mentally, it was, you know what? I've been through the ringer, and you play these mental games.
You're like, I've got it.
Well, you line up at the start line, you look around and you go, if all these people knew I'd just done 4 marathons, like, I'm standing up here alongside them and I'm going to take them on, like, you feel pretty powerful in that moment.
Right.
Like, they're going to smash you. Like, you're not going to break your record.
You're in beast mode. You're like,
you're in I don't care. I turned up is what I did, and I'm on that start line and I'm going to get this done. So I knew I was going to get it done when I was on that start line on day 5. It was like, let's enjoy the moment.
Yeah.
And that was the bit I loved. And then by then I was running along. I had a shirt explaining what I was doing, 5 fasted marathons, and everyone wants to have a chat too. So they're like, mate, tell me, when did you do this 5 fasted marathons? I'm like, mate, I'm doing it. They're like, what? I was like, yeah. They're like, oh, okay, when's your next marathon? I said, no, I've already done 4. This is my 5th today. They're like, holy shit, this is huge. So So everyone wanted to rally around it. So having that energy on that final marathon was huge because that definitely helped me get across that line.
Finally had some people clapping you through.
Well, that was it. That was what I'd wished for, and I planned it that way. I didn't want to start with that marathon and do 4
sure.
afterwards. It's kind of like,
makes sense.
first night on a boys' weekend. You don't want to go too hard, right? So the momentum of that day and how much fun that was definitely got me through. But again, it was hot. So 26 people got taken to hospital with heat issues, like by ambulance that day. Like there were people dropping out left, right, and center. So, I'm running with the battlers at the back of the pack because I'm not trying to set speed records. I'd never run a marathon. I had sprained ankles. It was hot. Like, there's a million reasons. But watching people literally collapse and be on stretchers as you're running past them, it was like, I've been through the ringer here. Like, don't be that guy. Like, don't wake up in hospital here. It was genuinely going through my head.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Wow. And so you finish. You cross over the finish line. I've seen the photo. It's like in a movie.
Yeah, it's awesome.
What are you feeling? Tell me what's the feeling when you're like?
Yeah, to be honest,
you're like, oh my God, I want to eat something. Oh, I want a massage. Oh my God, I need to sleep. Like, what's going through? Are you like elated? Like, what's the feeling?
Yeah, the feeling is hard to describe because it's a feeling of elation. So literally, like the last kilometers, I genuinely felt tears in my eyes because I was like, I've spent a year here working towards this.
Wow.
Every single person on the planet by about a handful said you're an idiot, you're going to die. And it was like, I did it. I had a theory, I tested it, and I'm now doing it, and I'm going to finish it. Like, that feeling is something that I'll never, ever forget.
Wow.
And then crossing that finish line and going, I've actually done it. This is official, and I've done it all right. I've tracked everything. It's all here. And then crossing that finish line was like, it was the most amazing feeling. So before all of this, I bought myself the biggest
huge achievement, massive achievement.
It was phenomenal. So, and even better in the moment, and I've got footage of this as well. The announcer of the Sydney Marathon got clued up for what I was doing. So as I crossed the line, he made this big announcement and the whole thing. And I literally crossed the line. He dragged me over and he goes, "Matt, I need to hear all about this," on the loudspeaker. Then he, it was piped out. He interviewed me, which was also really cool. So I've got all that on footage, which is awesome. So, one of those things that really marked, the occasion. So, but as I said, my meal, everyone's like, what was the first thing you ate? So I put the biggest steak I could before I did all of this because in my mind, it was like run across the finish line, literally tuck into a steak straight away. When I finished, I wasn't hungry at all. I didn't even need to eat that day, like at all. So I had like a hamburger patty and 2 eggs, or 2 hamburger patties, 2 eggs, and that was it. But even then I couldn't finish it. I was like, I could have done another 3 or 4 days of no eating. Like by then my body just doesn't need it. So hand on heart, I can absolutely tell you that when your body is fat adapted and it taps into its fuel source like that, you genuinely have endless energy. Like I definitely did not even go close to tapping out on the amount of energy that I had.
I'm just mind blown. I've looked at the footage and I've seen I've seen you speak about it on multiple occasions, and every time I hear it, it's like, nah, it's not possible. How could you do that? And it's, I think you should be so proud of yourself, but I mean, it's a mad achievement, and I think what you're doing is phenomenal in that you're you continuously test the boundaries, you continuously test what is what has been prescribed and challenge, and you keep proving and showing that what is the status quo maybe should be rethought. I love the work you're doing, and you've also been sharing your knowledge and experience and wisdom on the matter with other professional athletes right now, I understand. So like, talk us through, before we finish up, talk us through like you've had some other professionals come out and want to take on this type of lifestyle, and can you tell us some of maybe some anecdotal stories on the positive impacts it's had on those?
Yeah. So it was completely unexpected because, like I said, I'm not an athlete. I wasn't doing this to prove performance, but by its nature, I've had a lot of professional athletes, whether they be sort of ultra runners, ultra swimmers, anything from NRL players to UFC fighters, professional boxers, like you name it. Because as an athlete, they're like, hang on, I want to get the edge. So if you're telling me I can perform and not have to refuel, like it's kind of like being a Formula One car and not having to change your tires halfway through the race, like buys me extra time, gives me extra edge. So they're like, hang on, yeah, you're not an athlete, but what you demonstrated is something that I might be able to tap into. And particularly in the endurance running world, a lot of the belief is the other end of the spectrum, like must carb load and all that sort of thing, which shuts down all the ability everything I've demonstrated. But if you go down the carb loading side of things with the gels and everything, it plays absolute havoc on people's guts and, people vomiting and diarrhea and all that sort of stuff. It's kind of people like, oh, that's part and parcel for running and endurance because of that. And they're like, hang on, you can do this without any of that and all that stuff disappears. Now I'm interested. So there's a few reasons, and others going, right, my blood sugar's out of control. I can't carb load. I can't have gels because I'm a type 2 diabetic. Like I can't do my passion anymore. These guys reach out going, you've opened the door for me again because you're saying I can do this and I don't have to play that carbohydrate game. So it's shifting the paradigm. So you can argue which is better, but all I'm saying, my only job here is to demonstrate there is another way. So the way that I did it, avoiding all carbohydrates and becoming fat adapted, allows people to unlock these sort of things. So some examples of actual athletes doing this sort of stuff. There's a guy, I believe he's in Portugal, might be Spain, who's he just won the world championships for an ultra marathon, which is a 2-day event. An ultra marathon is, I think all up, it's just under 500 kilometers. So it's effectively like a double triathlon. Like, so I think it's a 10K swim, might be free, 10K swim, 360K bike ride, and an 80K run. He did it completely fasted and won the world championships for his age group. Like, wow. Absolute beast. So there's other guys that are like, well, if you don't have carbs, you're not going to perform. There's decathlete Ryan Talbot in the US. He's in the Team USA team. He, to give you an idea of how quick he is, he's literally in the top handful in America. He's still at college, but he's just outside he's in the Team USA, but just missed out on the Olympics. The guy runs a 10.6 second 100 meters, which is insane given they do 10 events in that period. It's not just sprinting. He does it's over 2 days, the 10 events in the decathlon. And he gets better as the weekend goes on. And again, does it completely fasted, full carnivore, zero carbs. So there are guys and lots of examples of these guys that are not only sort of tapping into what I've done, but proving that genuine performance is possible in there. And then you get the guys that are like the traditional carb athletes that are becoming pre-diabetic. They're the world's best athletes, training harder than anyone on the planet, but now they've got diabetes. It's like, hang on, there's something broken here. So it's kind of like, well, if you play the carb game, you're sort of rolling the dice with your health as well. So, does that mean exercise is bad? I'm like, no, you're not going to argue that point. But there's something you're doing is bad in the methodology. And I would point very squarely at the high carbohydrate content, because what that does to your metabolism causes a lot of problems. So there are some sort of starters like of genuine athletes doing some genuinely impressive things, but I think we've only just the tip of the iceberg. We're going to see a lot more of it.
Wow. Alex, phenomenal story. At the end of my podcast, I always finish off with 5 quick fire questions. So I'm going to shoot through them with you now. Who would you like to say sorry to given the chance?
Ooh, it's an odd one, but a genuine one. Picture this. I'm 6 years old. I'm at school. There's a kid the year below me who's in a wheelchair. John was his name. And I remember he had an incident in the playground, fell out of his wheelchair, fell on his back, and everyone, being 6, laughed at him. And I stood there in the crowd and I didn't help him. And I forever regret that. And forever I learned I'm never going to be the bystander because I knew it was wrong. That's a guy I'd say sorry to, top of my list.
Wow, that's beautiful. Wow. What are you proud of being or doing in your life besides running 5 marathons in 5 days?
Yeah, we can park that one. That's on the list. Another one that I'm genuinely proud of is I lost my best mate when I was 26. He got hit by a car. Now, that was 19 years ago. His anniversary is this weekend. What I'm very proud of is every anniversary of his passing, I hold an event where all our mates get together, and it's really expanded. So it ends up being everyone around the world sends through a photo of them raising a glass to him. And each year I put together an album and send it to his family to say, yeah, we're looking after him. So
that's amazing. Wow.
Very proud of that. 19 years, never missed one.
Wow. When did you receive kindness while needing it most and expecting it least?
Oh, this is a goodie. So when I was 17, I was on a cricket tour, got billeted with a family, and being 17, young and silly, got taken out, had a big night, very inexperienced with alcohol, and played up. Came back, absolutely made a mess of myself, and the house I was staying was a total disaster. And I did what any immature person would do, was just get out of there the next day and pretend it didn't happen. The kindness that I was shown was a week later, I got written the most beautiful letter from that family thanking me for my stay and how wonderful it was for me to be there. And I was like, are you sure you got the wrong person here? But to me, it changed everything. They didn't scold me, and they treated me with such respect and such love that forever I was like, you know what? I didn't deserve that, but they showed me more love than anyone, and I respect them for that. It had more impact on me than anything else.
Wow. Full on. And what did your mother or father teach you that you frequently remind yourself of?
My mother's saying, she put it probably not the most eloquently way, but it was, you get nothing for nothing, is what she would say. The way I would explain that is, another way would be, don't complain about the results you don't get from the work you didn't do.
Right.
So put the work in, you get the results, and don't complain if you don't do either.
Right. And the final one is, what is your superpower?
My commitment is what I would say. Resilience.
I would concur. Wow.
If I put my mind to something, I get it done, and I stand by that.
Unbelievable. Alex, what an incredible conversation. Honestly, I so many more questions, and we could talk for hours. And we might do a follow-up with maybe one of the doctors that you work with at some point. That would be really good. But thanks for coming on the show. Keep going, mate. Keep going.
Oh, thank you. It's been an absolute pleasure, Daniel. Happy to chat anytime. Let's do it again.
Unreal.
That's it for this episode of Men's Anonymous. Thank you for listening. For more information on the Men's Anonymous podcast, including resources discussed in the show, visit mensanonymous.com. Join us next time as host Daniel Weinberg provides a non-judgmental space for men to voice their innermost feelings and thoughts.